Hey, so what's going on, 93, man? I know you got a lot of good information out there, but I'm gonna let you introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know who you are, what you about.
Hey, peace. My name is 93. Yes, I'm a black man because I've been listening to these dialogues, and I know that brother Dante, he's been wanting at least somebody of his own ethnic group to talk. I'm just an independent researcher who just wanted to chime in on something that I seen was inconsistent in one of the claims of Dante Fortson. I've been interested in this topic for a long time, and I'm trying to take a non-biased approach to the research. And I came across Brother Dante's website, and the topic of the Sephardic Jews is very interesting. I think it's very interesting of the ethnic claims. People saying that they're black, or some people saying they're brown skin. And I have seen an entry on his site that I just, I fact checked one of the sources, and it seems like there's some incorrect information. I don't know if Dante is aware of this, but I just wanted to present this, to see what he might think, of if he might want to indulge. I know, people have been wanting to dialogue with him, so maybe he'll take a different approach if, somebody like me bring this to his attention. So I'm presenting right now. I went to his site.
Go ahead and put this on the screen.
Yeah. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically I'm here on Dante Fortson's website, Black History in the Bible, and I went to an entry that he has pertaining to the Sephardic Jews. This entry is from August 8th, 2018, and it says late 1400s, Hebrews confirmed as black and on the west coast of Africa. And I'm just gonna go through it. It's a small article. Dante does a good job of condensing his claims and his information. He says here, this piece of evidence is the smoking gun. It's only a couple of paragraphs, but it fills in a great deal of information that we've been missing. It is found in the Nautical Magazine, a journal of papers on subjects connected. This is volume 39 of the Nautical Magazine. If you go here, I believe this book is from the 19th century, the 1800s, I want to say. But just using this website, he quotes this Nautical Magazine, volume 39, in the 19th century, and it makes a reference to another author who claims, who speaks about Jews in West Africa. So this Nautical Magazine says, Barbeau states that in the reign of Don John II and about the close of the 15th century, large numbers of Jews were expelled from Portugal and taken to the coast of southern Guinea, that the island of St. Thomas, which is not more than 100 miles from the mainland, was populated by mulattoes, descended from the Jewish exiles and Anglo women. I'm gonna stop right there. This is very important, actually, because he's saying that these Jews came to Africa and created mulattoes who are living on the island of, they call it Sao Tomé or St. Thomas, excuse me. It goes on to say more about Jews in Angola and different people, but I want to focus on what Dante zeroed in on. He's showing a map here of Guinea, Senegambia, what we know as Senegambia, Guinea, this coast here. And he talks about the Hebrews, the people, because he wants to focus on how the Hebrews are black. So focusing on mulattoes, mulattoes, they're descendants of two different races, usually black and white. So let's see what Dante has to say about mulatto Hebrews in West Africa. He says the descendants of the Jews living in Sao Tomé and Principe are described as mulatto. If you're not familiar with the term, it is a term used to describe a person mixed with black and white. Many people find the term to be offensive. However, it is a major piece of evidence because the writer points out that the women were Anglo, meaning white. When he says Anglo, he's referencing Anglo-Saxons. Those will be the people of Britain and so forth. So he is saying that he gets out of this that the women were white because it says Anglo here. By process of elimination, it means that the Jewish men spoken of in the text were black. This is important because a lot of Hebrew Israelites, well, a certain amount of them, they maintain that the Anglo-Saxons were black. So here, if Dante Fortson is taking a stance or interpreting this as saying Anglo meaning white, if he's trusting this source, then this would mean, for this to be true, he has to disagree with the notion that Anglo-Saxons are black. Furthermore, he is trusting the veracity of this author to have made this post. He have to have believed, at least given some credit to the Nautical magazine. So this would be a secondary source, however, because the source itself is referencing this man Barbeau. So I wanted to see what the author said himself out of his own mouth. And when I looked up or did some research, this Barbeau actually is Jean Barbeau. So I just did a little investigation. It took me here, various other sites, but I chose this to give you a background on who Jean Barbeau was. It says, Jean Barbeau, a Frenchman, served for several years as an agent of the French Royal African Company. And that's important because this is the French Royal African Company. The Royal African Company, the English Royal African Company, they were known for King James, his descendants actually engaging and orchestrating and dealing with the transatlantic slave trade. So Jean Barbeau he's involved in the French Royal African Company. So it says in that capacity, he made at least 2 slaving voyages to West Africa. So this man is a slaver, but he's an author also. So this is important to know. This is a man who sold these slaves. So he should have some kind of intel on the topic. So it says one, he made a voyage in 1678, the other in 1682. He published an account of his trips in 1682 in France. The illustrations below appeared in the 1732 translation of his text, a description of the coast of North and South Guinea. So this is some of the illustrations he made. His book is The Descriptions of the Coast of North and South Guinea. And this is Jean Barbeau's work. So I tracked down the author's original work, and I have some excerpts here that may juxtapose some of the claims that Dante has made in his post. So I just want to go here. This is page 403. And I think this is very important to know or interesting to people who want to know about the Sephardic Jews. It says the blacks, both freemen and slaves, call themselves Christianos Novos, that is, new Christians or converts. And many of them, as well as the Mulattos, are brought over from Brazil and Angola, besides the natives of the island who all speak Portuguese. So the reason I brought this up is to be fair, because I know if anybody actually went to this text, they would probably look at this and say, well, the blacks are the new Christians, because new Christians is also like a term for Jewish converts to Christianity, Jews who kept their Judaism secret. You have black people here. They're all called Christianos Novos. Because some of the inhabitants of Africa, they were brought to the Senegambian coast, or just on the mainland themselves, they came across the Portuguese, and some of them they converted to Christianity, and this is what they were called. Some of them were free, some of them were slaves. Some of them were brought from Brazil and Angola, actually, back over into Africa. And they lived there, and they were known by this title. So just in case, anybody want to know, yes, there were black people that were Christianos Novos, not just Jews or any other people living there that may not have been black. So I go to page, same book, Barbeau. I'm going to page 404. And when I read down here, it speaks about Sao Tomé, and it might speak about the Jews and the Mulattos. Here it says, the first design of settling there, this is Sao Tomé, was in the year 1486, but perceiving how many perished in that attempt by reason of the unwholesomeness of the air, and that they could get they could better agree with that of the continent on the coast of Guinea. I'm sorry, this is an old book. It was resolved in council by King John of Portugal that all the Jews within his dominions, which were vastly numerous, should be obliged to receive baptism, or upon refusal, be transported to the coast of Guinea. Accordingly, an edict was set forth, and many of those who would not comply were shipped off and set ashore in Guinea, where the Portuguese had already several considerable settlements and a good trade. Considering the time since the first discovery, a few years after, such of those Jews as had escaped the malignant air were forced away to this isle of Saint Tomé, or Saint Thomas. There married to black women fetched from Angola in great numbers, with near 3,000 men of the same country. From those Jews married to black women, in process of time proceeded mostly that brood of mulattoes, at this day inhabiting the island. So here, instead of Anglo, we see it's a misnomer for Angola. And we hear—
read that one more time, please, for the audience.
I got you. A few years after, such of those Jews as had escaped the malignant air were forced away to this isle of Saint Tomé. There married to black women fetched from Angola in great numbers, with near 3,000 men of the same country. From those Jews married to black women, in process of time proceeded mostly that brood of mulattoes, at this day inhabiting the island. So at this time you have mulattoes, who Barbo is actually saying descending from black women and those Jewish men, who creates the mulattoes. So Dante, let's go back to what he was saying, his interpretation was that these mulattoes came from Jewish men and white women. He said the descendants there are mulatto. If you're not familiar, it's a person of mixed black and white race. He said the major piece of evidence is the writer points out that the women were Anglo, when actuality, if you go to the source, it says black women fetched from Angola. So what we have here is, one, the actual source that he uses is quoting the primary source, which Dante should have went to instead of using a secondary source. And he would have seen that his interpretation was actually the exact opposite. Instead of it being black men and white, seems to be white men, white male Jews, and black women from Angola, who produce a mulatto class there. And I have another portion.
So in other words, the secondary source is misquoting the primary source.
Absolutely.
Or at the very least, it's an error. At the very least, to grant the secondary source the benefit of the doubt, there could have been a typo in the secondary source quoting the primary source. Because when we look at the primary source actually has Angola or Angolan women rather than Anglo women.
Yes, or maybe at some point Anglo was short for Angola back then, and they just dropped that at some point. But I mean, it would make a lot more sense than, for one, British people just donating their women to Iberian people. Like, these men that's being banished here, they're banished. They're lowlifes in the eyes of Europeans. So why would they grant them with their women? You know, doesn't make sense for the Anglo-Saxons to contribute in any way, especially if you think the Anglo-Saxons are black, which I don't think Dante does. Either way, it doesn't make sense.
I want the audience out there to catch something. If mulatto means black and white, according to Dante Fortson's own criteria, if mulatto means black and white, and we see here that the women are being identified as black, that only leaves one possible conclusion. Again, according to his criteria, if the women are black, the men are...
they're white. As a matter of fact, for those interested in genetics, if you look up the genetics of the people of Cape Verde, you'll see a great admixture. And and you'll see a lot of the male Y DNA haplogroups pointing back to Europe and places like Spain. They have that Jewish ancestry actually. Yep, they actually do. As a matter of fact, these people were called the Mulattos actually, and that's a whole nother video to deal with. But the Mulattos were very important in the Senegambian coast. I just want to go to another portion of this book before I use another source to supplement this claim of mulattoes in West Africa, mulatto Jews. I want to go to page 408 in Barbeau's book, where he talks about Sao Tomé, the island. He says, "The islanders are a mongrel people. As I have already hinted, white Portuguese descended from the first inhabitants of the island, pause, when it was settled." And he has Portuguese mulattoes also descended from the proscribed Jews sent thither at the beginning of the colony and married to black women sent from Angola. So we have this again, Angola, both free, besides a vast number of blacks and mulattoes not free. Transported also from Luanda de Sao Paulo, and the island could be cultivated. Well, yeah, it also talks about different other people the more you go down. But
if I could chime in very quickly, there was another section in the book. I think it was the Lemaire book that talks about the women, and it uses a specific term, right? Oh,
yeah,
it uses a specific term.
Yes, I have. That's my next actual source I wanted to go to. But to go over this again, this here in this book says that the Jews sent thither at the beginning of the colony married to black women sent from Angola, and it talks about the Portuguese mulattoes. See here? Portuguese mulattoes also descended from the proscribed Jews sent there at the beginning of the colony and married to black women. So these mulattoes are the descendants of Jews and black women. This book here, I have it right here. You can see it up here. It's the title of the book, The Voyage of Sieur Lemaire and the Canary Islands, Cape Verde, Senegal, and Gambia. So this is the Senegambian coast. And he also, I guess, went to the Canary Islands. Here, he is describing various peoples who he's seen. So he has the Gelofs or Jelofs. This is in Senegal. Anybody know the word Jelofs or Gelofs or Jollof rice? He talks about the Sorare. He talks about the kingdom of Barbans. But here's where I want to put my focus. Right here he says, besides these three nations, and there is another, who are a sort of Portuguese, a nation who named themselves so because they were formerly subject to them, and are descended from those who first inhabited this coast. After the discovery of it, from the negresses whom they married were born the mulattoes, from whom are descended a more swarthy race. They may also be fugitives too of Cape Verde, or I think this says Cacbo, another colony of this nation, on one of the branches of the river Gambia, distance thence 3 days' journey. As they have followed the religion of their old masters, they are partly Jews and partly Catholics. They wear a cope like our chanteurs. No one is greater than another. Okay, and I'm gonna repeat that again for people that's for everybody that's listening.
Right.
He said, besides the three nations listed above, there's another who are a sort of Portuguese, a nation who named themselves so because they were formerly subject to them, and are descended from those who first inhabited this coast after the discovery of it. From the negresses whom they married were born the mulattoes, from whom are descended a more swarthy race. It says, as they have followed the religion of their old masters, they are partly Jews and partly Catholics. So here, even in the source, in Lemaire's source, in the 17th century, we see mulattoes on the Senegambian coast who are partly Jews, partly Catholic, and I'm sure they had some part paganism. I would assert that every time you see European explorers, or most times you see the European explorers coming to that coast, anytime after the Spanish or Portuguese Inquisition, they are running into the same people. They're running into these brown-skinned people who were mulattoes and maybe over time got even darker, and they kept part of their Jewish heritage. They are the descendants of white men from these sources and black women. We see it. It says negresses. That is the term for female black women. And we have also in the previous source, Angolan women who create mulattoes with these Sephardic Jews. So this actually is in stark contrast to Dante's findings. And I want to bring this to his attention. I don't know if he knows this. I don't know if anybody else has tried to bring this to his attention or have they successfully got his attention. But his entry, or at least in this instance, what he's saying about the ethnicity of the Sephardic Jews, it's in question. It's actually, I would say, it's been refuted by historical sources that maybe he needed to dig deeper into to find this out. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely refuted, man. Absolutely, positively debunked.